I started out in show business at such a young age that I sort of caught the tail end of an era that people of my generation didn't see. You know, maybe the only one that I know who's a contemporary of mine who saw a little bit of it was Michael Feinstein, because he got to work with Ira Gershwin.
Right, that's right. He was his music cataloger for a while.
He was his apprentice,
yeah,
right. You know? But anybody in my sort of age group.
It's unique what you've done. Yeah, that's right. It starts so young.
Yeah. It was very unique. But I got to tell you, Doug, I was so fortunate. I mean, people like Danny Thomas and Liberace and Frank Sinatra, and I mean, all these people, they taught me so much. I mean, it was like I didn't have to go to acting school. I went on the road with them.
Yeah.
It was so great, and there's nothing like that now. So I consider myself, you know, one of the luckiest gals on the whole universe, you know.
You mentioned those names and those great showbiz veterans. You know, they really earn their way and learn their craft, like you said, either in vaudeville or working the mountains, maybe the Poconos,
especially
comedians.
George Burns. Especially
sure.
George Burns. I worked with George, and I knew Jack Benny. And would you believe I met Edward G. Robinson when I was a kid?
Did you really?
I had breakfast with him at the Hillcrest Country Club in Beverly Hills.
Oh, wow.
And who do you think was at this breakfast? You're going to faint. You're going to faint when I tell you. Edward G. Robinson, Bob Hope, George Burns, Jack Benny, Milton Berle.
Oh, boy.
Danny Thomas. I mean, you know, you just don't get icons that are bigger than that.
Too bad you didn't have a little pocket recorder back then to record that. That must have been a fun meal.
It was unbelievable. And Edward G. Robinson was the most genteel. Do you know that he was talking to me? I was a little girl, but he was telling me he had a fantastic art collection.
I know he was into art. Yes, I had heard that.
He was one of the premier art collectors in this country.
Totally different from his image on film in real life.
Right.
Yeah, he was an interesting man.
His family was a very, very sophisticated family from Romania. He came here as a little Jewish Romanian boy at the age of like 5. You know, they worked their way up, naturally like every other immigrant family, you know, giving up everything to come here, you know. And look what he made of his life. I mean, he was amazing. Self-educated, a great art collector, a brilliant actor. You know, these people had fantastic backgrounds. And Jack Benny was so sweet, so gentle.
Not like his character at all. Very generous man, from what I hear.
Oh, what a sweetie, what a mensch. But I'll tell you, I was really lucky because as I went through the decades musically, I sort of took all these old fundamentals with me. And I really think it helps make you very solid as a performer. You know, it's like having, you know, it would be like if you sat down and told me some of the greats that you knew in broadcasting that helped you sustain your audience today, all these years of broadcasting, all these years, you know, thinking about the public and keeping your ear to the ground and what they're interested in over the years and staying plugged into your audience and staying hip to all the different musical trends that come across our paths as we go through these decades, and how not to be a dinosaur but yet not to give up the fundamental roots of this great training.
Sure.
You know, it's that dance, it's that delicate sort of dance that you do, you know, to stay in the ball game. You would consider yourself very lucky if you really thought about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I like I said, I grew up in New York, and I try and model this show, the big band show, after I'm sure you've been on the station or at least heard it, WNEW-AM in its heyday.
Sure.
When they played all those great songs, and they appreciated that kind of music.
Ted Brown, remember all those guys?
Ted Brown, Jim Lowe, I've talked to him, and Jonathan Schwartz still working around on radio, so great names in Broadway. William B. Williams, another one.
William B. Williams.
The Make-Believe Ballroom, remember that?
And Teddy.
See, Ted Brown was very funny. Very, very funny character.
Remember his wife, Renee?
Renee, yeah, sure. Yeah.
God, it's like another lifetime ago. God, I met them when I was like 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
I would think you must have been on that station a bunch of times growing up. But
as a child, but they were so kind to me, and they really, you know what I loved about it then too? There were people that were really champions of this kind of music.
Sure.
And you know, thank God for you that there's a place that folks who love this kind of music can be listening to it.
Well, it doesn't get the kind of airplay it should, and you can find it, but you got to look for it. It's not. It deserves better than it is.
Yeah, but it's like that with everything now, isn't it? I mean, unless you're urban contemporary, which is sort of become the standard of what's on the radio. But if you like jazz, you got to look for it.
Got to look for it.
If you like country, you got to look for it. If you like the American standards, which big band American standards, you got to look for it because everything became so departmentalized.
Well, I want to talk about the CD, Julie, the new classics, which you have some great big band charts on there and some wonderful Broadway tunes on there as well, which, of course, you've done a lot of Broadway in your career. Talk a little about the CD.
Well, the CD was that thing that sort of bridges the gap between, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I tip my hat to, the proficiency and the greatness of the older writers. At the same time, I allow myself to sort of move into the latter years where the other writers, where they passed the baton to, such as the Marvin Hamlishes, the Burt Bacharachs, the Jabims, Stephen Schwartz, who wrote Wicked, Elton John, sorry seems to be the hardest word, Herb Bernstein, Little Boy of Mine, which is a big favorite of mine on that CD. Folks like that, where they have their roots very similarly to myself, where their roots are in the teachings of the greats, where we sort of move it into the contemporary world, where we moved it, Doug James and all those guys who wrote after you, and where you move it into this contemporary time musically, and I think it really holds up. I mean, A House Is Not a Home with Burt Bacharach and Hal David.
Yeah, great song.
Someone to Light Up My Life, Jabim. Roses and Rainbows by Marvin Hamlish. Didn't We?
Jimmy Webb. Yeah.
Hungry Years, Neil Sedaka. Like I said, Little Boy of Mine by Herb Bernstein. Defying Gravity from Wicked is one of my favorites. What else can I say? When something comes from your heart, there's little argument you can give to it. You just have to do it. You have to follow it. And if you don't, that's the thing you regret.
The new classics, it's called. And a very nice picture on the front, Julie.
Do you like it?
I say that with all respect, but it is a very nice picture.
Did you look inside and see the thing with me and Herbie inside?
I did. Nice picture with
you and
Herb there.
That I really love.
Yeah.
That I love, because I know Herb since I'm 12 years old.
I know.
He has sold 40 million records. I mean, this man knows something about, the record business.
That's pretty good.
Jersey Boys is on Broadway right now, and a lot of the songs that they are doing in the show was songs that Herb originally had as hit records with Frankie Valli.
Frankie Valli, right. And if people want to get the CD, I just want to tell them, go to juliebud.com.
Or Amazon.
Amazon as well.
Amazon as well. And there are some stores out there that are still selling CDs. It's hard to find them. There's few and few stores that are selling CDs. You're
going to be coming down to Florida. I know we talked last week. You got some gigs coming up next fall and winter, right?
I love Florida.
You got to come down to Sarasota, Julie. Get on the docket here.
Oh, you have a really good symphony too, and I do a lot of symphonies.
Yeah.
Around
Florida West Coast Symphony.
Yeah, I do. I do like 90% of my work is in symphonies. This time I'm coming to the Lyric Theater in February, and I'm going to bring my Dorothy Fields show.
Oh, great.
And Dorothy Fields, for those who are saying, I know that name, who is Dorothy Fields? She wrote I'm in the Mood for Love. She wrote the entire score along with Cy Coleman to Sweet Charity.
That's right.
And Two for the Seesaw and A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. And she wrote The Way You Look Tonight with Jerome Kern. And she wrote Sunny Side of the Street. And I mean, I could go on and on and on. She was probably the first premier lady lyricist in this country. And I'm doing that show at the Lyric Theater on February 6th. I do 2 shows there.
Well, Julie, it's really been a pleasure to talk to you. Again, been a big fan of yours over the years, and we'll do it again before you come down to Florida.
In February, you better come to my show.
I will be there. Even if you're not in Sarasota, I'll drive over and see you. I will do that.
Yeah, I'll hold tickets for you. You know I will.
Thanks, Julie.